Marcus Johnson, a bright 17-year-old honors student, was driving home from his evening shift at the local library when flashing lights appeared in his rearview mirror. Officer James Sullivan, known in the community for his questionable conduct, approached the vehicle with his hand already on his holster. Despite Marcus following proper protocol, hands visible on the steering wheel, speaking respectfully, Officer Sullivan grew increasingly aggressive. The routine traffic stop quickly escalated as Sullivan demanded Marcus exit his vehicle without probable cause. When Marcus calmly asked for the reason, Sullivan forcefully dragged him out, causing Marcus to stumble onto the cold pavement. "You're lucky that's all you're getting," Sullivan sneered, throwing Marcus's license at him before driving away. What Sullivan didn't know was that Marcus's father, Michael Johnson, was a prominent civil rights attorney. More importantly, Marcus had been quietly recording the entire interaction on his phone, a habit his parents had taught him for protection. As Marcus called his father with trembling hands, he realized this moment could be bigger than just his experience. His video captured everything: Sullivan's aggressive approach, the baseless demands, the physical assault. While Marcus's hands were shaking, his voice remained steady as he told his father, "Dad, we need to make sure this never happens to anyone else." The phone's clock showed 9:45 p.m. Within 15 minutes, Michael Johnson had already set in motion a chain of events that would reshape their community's approach to law enforcement accountability. He wasn't seeking revenge. He was pursuing justice through the proper channels, armed with irrefutable evidence and an unwavering determination to create systemic change. As Marcus sat in their living room with an ice pack on his bruised shoulder, he watched his father make calls to the police chief, the city council, and trusted journalists. His mother, Dr. Johnson, documented his injuries for the official record. The family knew that true change wouldn't come from retaliation, but from methodically exposing and addressing the root causes of such behavior. Initial news of the incident spread quickly through social media, but the Johnsons were strategic. They weren't just sharing a video. They were building a case that would lead to meaningful reform. Marcus's calm demeanor and clear recording would soon become powerful tools in the fight for accountability. The next morning, the Johnson family's carefully planned response began taking shape. The police department's Internal Affairs Division received not only Marcus's video, but also a detailed timeline of Officer Sullivan's previous complaints, a pattern that Dr. Johnson had spent the night researching and documenting. Local news stations aired the footage during their morning broadcasts, but what made the story powerful wasn't just the video. It was Marcus's composed interview. He spoke articulately about systemic issues and the need for reform, rather than seeking personal revenge. His maturity and measured response resonated with viewers across the political spectrum. By noon, community leaders were gathering at City Hall. The Johnsons had mobilized a coalition of civil rights organizations, local business owners, and even retired police officers who were tired of seeing their profession tarnished by officers like Sullivan. What started as one incident was quickly becoming a catalyst for change. Officer Sullivan arrived at the precinct that morning to find himself under investigation. His superior officers, already facing pressure from city officials and the media, had no choice but to take immediate action. Sullivan's body camera footage from previous stops was being reviewed, revealing a disturbing pattern of similar incidents that had gone unreported. As community meetings were organized, Marcus became an unexpected voice for change. Other young people, inspired by his approach, began sharing their own stories. The local police academy invited him to speak to new recruits about the impact of their actions on community trust. The city council fast-tracked proposals for improved officer training and accountability measures. Body camera requirements were strengthened, and a civilian oversight board was established. What Officer Sullivan hadn't realized was that his actions would lead to the very reforms he had long resisted. Marcus noticed something changing in his community. Officers at traffic stops became more professional, knowing they were being held accountable. Young people felt more confident reporting incidents, and the police department began actively reaching out to rebuild trust. The cold revenge wasn't about hurting Officer Sullivan. It was about transforming a broken system through legal and peaceful means. As the third week unfolded, Marcus's case gained national attention. Major news networks picked up the story, not just because of the incident, but because of the remarkable way the Johnson family had transformed a traumatic experience into positive change. The police department's internal investigation revealed that Officer Sullivan had 17 previous complaints filed against him, but they'd been buried in bureaucratic paperwork. 3 other officers came forward, describing how Sullivan had pressured them to stay quiet about his misconduct. His personnel file showed a history of escalating aggression, particularly toward minority youth. Marcus began receiving letters from teenagers across the country who'd faced similar situations. Instead of letting these stories fade away, he and his father created a database documenting police interactions, making patterns of behavior impossible to ignore. Local tech companies offered to develop an app that would help citizens safely record and report police encounters. Officer Sullivan's disciplinary hearing was scheduled, but he chose to resign before facing the panel. However, the Johnsons weren't satisfied with just one officer's removal. They pushed for a complete overhaul of the department's hiring and training procedures. The city agreed to implement psychological screenings and implicit bias training for all officers. The police chief, initially defensive, became an unexpected ally. Seeing the positive changes in community relations, he publicly acknowledged the need for reform. He appointed Marcus to a youth advisory board that would provide input on police policies affecting young people. Local businesses started offering free legal clinics where citizens could learn their rights during police encounters. The library where Marcus worked created a special section dedicated to civil rights and community activism. Even some retired officers volunteered to teach proper police procedure to community members. The state legislature took notice. They began drafting new legislation, nicknamed the Marcus Johnson Law, requiring all police departments to implement similar reforms. What started as one terrifying night was transforming into a movement for lasting change, proving that justice served through legal channels could be more powerful than any act of revenge. 6 months after the incident, Marcus was invited to speak at a national conference on police reform. As he stood at the podium, facing a room full of police chiefs, lawmakers, and civil rights activists, his story had evolved into something much bigger than one traffic stop. The Marcus Johnson Law had been adopted by 3 neighboring states, with more considering similar legislation. Police departments reported a significant drop in complaints, while community trust scores were rising. Former Officer Sullivan's case became a mandatory case study in police academies, teaching future officers about the consequences of abuse of power. Marcus's database project had grown into a sophisticated nationwide platform. Police departments were using it to identify problematic patterns before they escalated. Civil rights organizations praised the system's transparency, while police unions acknowledged its role in protecting good officers by weeding out bad ones. Dr. Johnson's research on police psychology led to groundbreaking changes in officer wellness programs. Departments began implementing mandatory counseling and stress management training, recognizing that officer mental health directly impacted community interactions. The program showed promising results, with fewer incidents of excessive force. The app developed with local tech companies had been downloaded millions of times. It had already helped document hundreds of police interactions, leading to both officer accountability and recognition of exemplary police work. Officers who consistently demonstrated professionalism and respect were being highlighted as role models. Back in his hometown, Marcus noticed profound changes. The tension during traffic stops had decreased significantly. Young people reported feeling safer around police, while officers expressed appreciation for clearer guidelines and better training. The Community Oversight Board was functioning effectively, with both civilians and police working together. As Marcus concluded his speech at the conference, he shared a surprising update. He had decided to become a lawyer like his father, but with a twist. He planned to specialize in police reform and community relations, turning his experience into a lifetime commitment to positive change. 1 year after the incident, Marcus's influence had spread far beyond legal reforms. His story became part of a popular documentary series exploring successful police reform initiatives across America. The series highlighted how his approach of systematic, legal change proved more effective than confrontational methods. Marcus started a scholarship program for students interested in criminal justice reform, funded by donations from inspired community members and businesses. The program specifically encouraged both aspiring police officers and civil rights lawyers to work together during their training, breaking down barriers early in their careers. Former Officer Sullivan's life took an unexpected turn. After months of reflection, he reached out to Marcus through his attorney, requesting a meeting. The conversation, facilitated by a professional mediator, became a powerful example of restorative justice. Sullivan acknowledged his biases and the harm he caused, while Marcus shared how the incident had affected him. The police department underwent a complete cultural transformation. The new chief, a woman of color who had supported the reforms from the beginning, implemented regular community feedback sessions. Officers began participating in neighborhood events not as authority figures, but as community members. Local schools incorporated modules about civil rights and police interactions into their curriculum, with Marcus occasionally guest teaching. Students learned about their rights while also understanding the challenges faced by law enforcement, fostering mutual respect and understanding. The Johnson family's approach became a blueprint for other communities facing similar challenges. Instead of protests turning violent, more cities adopted their model of systematic reform through legal channels. Police departments nationwide began requesting guidance on implementing similar changes. The most significant change was in the daily lives of young people in the community. Traffic stops, once a source of anxiety, became routine interactions marked by professionalism and respect on both sides. The cold revenge had transformed into something far more powerful, lasting, systemic change. 18 months after the incident, Marcus's initiative had grown into a national movement. The Justice Through Accountability program he founded was operating in 50 major cities, each seeing remarkable improvements in police-community relations. Sullivan's transformation became a crucial part of the story. After their initial meeting, he joined Marcus in speaking at police training sessions, offering a unique perspective on how unchecked bias can corrupt an officer's judgment. Their unlikely partnership demonstrated the power of redemption and understanding. The app developed through Marcus's initiative had evolved into a sophisticated platform used by both citizens and police departments. It now included features for reporting positive police interactions, creating a more balanced narrative about law enforcement. Officers with consistently positive feedback were recognized and promoted to training positions. Marcus's college essays about his experience caught the attention of top law schools. Harvard Law offered him a full scholarship, recognizing his potential to shape the future of criminal justice reform. His acceptance speech went viral when he spoke about transforming pain into progress. The database project expanded to include artificial intelligence analysis, identifying patterns in police behavior that helped departments prevent incidents before they occurred. This proactive approach reduced complaints by 70% in participating cities. Dr. Johnson's research led to a revolutionary police training program that combined traditional law enforcement techniques with emotional intelligence and cultural awareness. The program became mandatory in police academies across multiple states. The most powerful moment came when Marcus's local police department invited him to help design their new training facility, named the Community Bridge Center. The center became a model for other cities, showing how police training could evolve to meet modern challenges while maintaining public safety. 2 years after that fateful traffic stop, Marcus stood on the graduation stage at Harvard Law School, delivering the valedictory address. His speech focused not on the incident that started his journey, but on the remarkable changes it inspired across the nation. The Justice Through Accountability program now operated in every state, credited with a 60% reduction in police misconduct cases nationwide. Former Officer Sullivan had become a full-time advocate for police reform, working alongside Marcus to bridge gaps between law enforcement and communities. The Community Bridge Center had expanded into a national network of training facilities. Police departments reported record-high community trust levels, while officer job satisfaction improved significantly. The Marcus Johnson Law had been adopted federally, ensuring consistent standards of police accountability across the country. The app and database system became standard tools in law enforcement, used by both police and civilians to maintain transparency and trust. It had documented over 1 million police interactions, with the vast majority now being positive experiences that strengthened community bonds. Marcus's scholarship program had supported hundreds of students pursuing careers in law enforcement and civil rights law. Many graduates were now leading reform efforts in their own communities, creating a ripple effect of positive change. The Johnsons established a foundation focused on preventive measures, working to address systemic issues before they led to confrontations. Their approach became a case study in effective social change, taught in universities worldwide. As Marcus concluded his graduation speech, he shared the most powerful lesson from his journey. True justice isn't about revenge or punishment, but about transforming systems to prevent future harm. His story proved that one moment of injustice, handled with wisdom and determination, could spark a revolution of positive change.